Hi, welcome to Chili's.
So what's the deal with my OCs? I'm making this video because I'm tired of writing the same response to everyone, and I'm tired of people asking me the same questions. Okay, hear me out. I love it when people ask questions about my OCs, but when those questions can be interpreted in a way that questions my creativity, that ain't cool. Everyone who has seen my OCs, or even the thumbnail, could guess what this is about. And if you're still oblivious to the point I'm trying to counter, consider yourself damn lucky. Bottom line is, my characters aren't rip-offs, and no amount of complaining is going to change that. I'll listen to any critique regarding anatomy and art in general, but in the end these characters are like my babies, and I am very reluctant to make any drastic changes to their appearances to appease you. I'd also like to mention that this isn't a particularly serious video. I can take a joke about my characters and I absolutely love the amount of shipping art I've gotten, it's actually amazing. But this is just an informal and polite explanation of my OCs. So let's get into this. As you can see, Madvid, Malphus and Cornelius are considered the biggest issues, which is a bummer because they're my three favourites. It's rather funny in a way that people will instantly discredit me just because of these three characters, but don't want to pay attention to my skeletal characters. I guess because there aren't any skeletons in Black Butler, you're just going to ignore my skeletons in aid of whatever agenda you're trying to push. Yeah, okay. It looks like I have some explaining to do. Allow me to fetch my receipts. I started making and drawing my OCs in 2007/2008 at the ages of 10 or 11. Madvid was my first OC ever, and I can't believe I'm showing you old art of mine, oh my god. Madvid, of course, is considered the worst offender. I can't show him off anywhere without someone being like, oh my god, I love this picture of Grell, ah. Even as I write the script, someone decides to comment on my recent picture of Madvid, essentially saying the same thing. Thank you, my dude, I really needed a 400th opinion on this. Like I said, Madvid's been around since about 2007, and as far as I'm aware, Black Butler had its first international publishing about that same time. I know for a fact that the first season came out in 2008, but the point I'm trying to make here is that a small 10-year-old Jada wouldn't have known or heard of this series. I was in primary school, wiping my nose on my cardigan when this series came out. Back then was the time that computers or laptops weren't as readily available as they are now. We had a computer room until around 2012 when I got my first laptop, and I only used the computer room to draw in MS Paint and make shitty movie maker videos. The very first instance of this comparison happened in 2015. I uploaded a picture of Madvid looking as he normally does but with glasses on. That's when people began having this problem with him. Most people point to his glasses, his teeth and the fact that he wears red. But the thing is that he's always worn red and he's always had fangs, being a vampire and all. And to be honest, yes, these are striking similarities. But the thing is that he wears glasses that caused the small tidal wave of people to start hollering down my ear. Okay, they didn't know any better, but Madvid had worn glasses since the beginning, and I removed them when I started using DeviantArt, and for some reason, putting them back on him has people shitting themselves in anger. I'm also going to argue that it was also a shift in art style that winded a few people up. Up until recently, I had a rather juvenile style of art. It's only been within the past year or so that I've started drawing in a much more solid anime style. For instance, nobody complained about this picture. But then everyone complained about this most recent one. Notice the difference in art styles. I rest my case. So what's next on the list? Of course, narrative. This is going to be fun. I totally understand the arguments that people have here. I don't have a very solid narrative uploaded to any of my sites, it's all in my head. Hints of my OC's stories are just kind of scattered around on different deviations and I should totally work to change that. But let's settle some things before I do. My OC's narrative, ideas and characterization came from the Renaissance era play Dr. Faustus. I didn't have a cat in hell's chance when I decided to use this play as a basis for my OC's narrative. What would anyone expect when Black Butler is literally based on the same folklore and play? And don't try to argue with me here because it's referenced a lot in the anime. To be honest, I reference the original play more in my work. Cornelius shares a name with one of the characters in Dr. Faustus, and his deceased father Valdez also does. In fact, Vincent and Baraschial live in Wittenberg, Germany, the same place where the play is set. The play has a simple and rather familiar premise. A guy sells his soul, and in return the demon Mephistopheles saves him. Ta-da! The selling of one soul is a popular plot device. I can think of 2 examples when The Simpsons did it, and I really need to stop relating everything back to The Simpsons on this channel. Oh my god. Firstly, let me give you a gist of my narrative. Cornelius is orphaned, went out shopping with his maid, he comes back home, finds his parents murdered, and after a couple of weeks he discovers his father's book collection. Kathy's like, no, don't read that, and tells Cornelius that his family's been cursed for many generations, causing everyone in the family and everyone who they love to die suddenly and mysteriously. Cornelius is too scared to read any books, and hides in his room for weeks on end. When he wakes up screaming with an eye missing, he realises that the curse can strike him regardless of what he does. He decides to read a book from his father's collection without Kathy's knowledge, and he finds a book about demonology, and that's when he gets an idea. He's like, fuck all of y'all, and he goes out and summons Malthus to act as a bodyguard for him whilst he tries to unravel the curse. Also, there's soul-sucking yet bureaucratic vampires, some angry guardian angel and skeletons and stuff, but that's not important. Let's compare this to Black Butler then. Some kids' parents die, and then some stuff happens, and there's a lot of sexual tension for no good reason, and also my husband's there, and honestly, I don't even know what's happening in this show. Okay, one of the main complaints about my narrative is that it's too similar. But my dudes, a kid being orphaned is actually a very common catalyst. Do you know another character that has exactly the same character dynamics as CL? Fucking Batman. Think about it, some rich kid's parents are killed and he uses the help from his butler to seek revenge. Which brings me on to another point, both CL and Cornelius are driven by different motivations. CL wants revenge and revenge only, and Cornelius wants to live a full and happy life. Whoa, that sounded really gay. Speaking of gay, back to Madvid. Or more precisely, how I write vampires. Someone once said that if you replace the word vampire with Grim Reaper in any of my characters' biographies, then they'd be the same. Okay. But my characters differ from the modern blood-sucking vampires we have nowadays, because I base mine on more traditional folklore that can be traced back to the Slavic region of Europe. Back before the 19th century, before Dracula became a thing, vampires were considered soul stealers and sucked lifeblood rather than blood. My vampires act almost like a corporation. There are different roles and a hierarchy of them that are used to make sure their jobs run as smoothly as possible. Their job is simple: hang around dying people whose souls escape from their body at their last breath, and use these little skull things to collect their souls. Through these little skull things, their souls are then transported automatically to whatever afterlife they were destined to go to. Like I said, there are different roles vampires can have. Madvid is what is considered a harvester, and therefore has to forcefully extract souls through cold-blooded murder. Harvesters kill those who die suddenly to a curse, which is why he's so interested in Cornelius. Demons and vampires are inherently enemies, because demons will try to steal souls before they are collected by a vampire. But I'm not quite done yet. To hop back on Madvid's case, his appearance and background can be heavily linked to the Dirk Jew. I probably mispronounced that, and it means red bloodsucker. And it's a tale of a woman who committed suicide when forced into marriage, which is basically what Madvid does. A link to his and my other characters' biographies will be in the description because it's too long to explain here. I'm sorry to go on such a diverge when talking about vampires, but I've researched vampiric folklore quite a lot, and I have to say they're my favourite legend ever, so I can't help but feel rather insulted when people try and tell me that I'm ripping a property off, when my characters are based off of folklore centuries older than the property in question. Malthus is named after the literal demon he is based on. In demon lore, or whatever it's called, Malthus appears in the form of a crow, and strikes deals with his summoner. He is said to give good familiars, or in my case, be a good familiar, build up and take down towers at will, and will just generally be a pain in the arse. Let's look him up. Oh, for fuck's sake! Okay, but Bastion, so far, in the canon, isn't based on an actual demon. This is all speculation. But if it does turn out that he's based off of Malthus, then I did it first and you can suck my dick and balls. And this leads off onto my final point. I'm ending with my favourite thing to talk about. Characters. I kind of talked about design in my first point, but I'm going to expand more on it here. How many times do I have to mention that I use colour coding? Colour coding is when a character's palette reflects their personality. Cornelius is blue. Blue has connotations of intelligence and sadness. Madford is red. Red has connotations of passion and anger. Malphus is black and purple. Purple is mysterious and black is evil. Whoa, such an easy explanation. Too bad nobody ever thinks about this. But wait, there's more. People complain a shit ton about Madford's clothing. It's almost as if he wears clothes relevant to the time period. I chose a riding coat because he likes riding things. And I said things, I didn't necessarily mean horses. I'm so sick of talking about outward appearances, so let's talk about personalities. Yay! Cornelius first. People complain because of his looks and backstory. Nobody's ever made a correlation between his personality and CL's. Good. You can really weed out who truly believes that appearance is everything when it comes to characters, from the people who comment on these OCs. Newsflash, personality and backstory are more important than appearance. A character can look as plain as bread and still be really good, providing they have a good story and personality. On the other hand, if a character looks amazing, but has a really dull story and personality, they are going to be forgettable. Now on to Malphus. Nobody has drawn many similarities with personality here either. I'd like to point out here that he is used primarily as a bodyguard and only pretends to be a servant as a disguise. His job isn't to serve, it is to protect. Context should always be considered when comparing an OC to an official character. Madford again gets a lot of hate. This poor boy is a punching bag at this point. Oh my god, a super effeminate eccentric man who wears red. That's not a recurring thing at all. Anyway, character dynamics, then I'll shut up. Malphus hates Cornelius with a burning passion. He hates how demanding this child is and is often very reluctant to do anything for him. Compared to Bastion, Malphus is a lot more hateful and deceitful. He literally feeds off the sadness of others. He goes out of his way to let Cornelius get injured and is incredibly deceptive and sly in his attitude and demeanour. He's the kind of guy who poses as a friend but isn't really emotionally invested in anyone and is just there to watch shit unfold. Cornelius, like I said before, isn't vengeful or as bitter as CL is. Cornelius has a much more depressing and nihilistic outlook on life, and he's just generally a very sad, very fragile child, trying hard to act tough. He cares for nobody because he risks cursing others if he did love them. He wants a normal life for his family's future generations, and he'll do whatever he can to ensure that. He only puts up with Malphus because he knows he can blackmail the demon and has nothing to lose. Madford is a narcissistic asshole. There's nothing else to say. He doesn't work very hard, is a massive failure in everything he does, is as sexist as one can get, is really freaking annoying, and is an inconvenience to everyone. But then again, with how angry people get with Madford's character, he seems to be doing his job very well. He's kind of the comedic relief. A joke. Not necessarily a joke character, because I did work hard on him, but a character that people shouldn't take particularly seriously. And I'd like to end this by saying that people take OCs way too seriously. Why are you sitting here arguing with me online about my characters? You don't know anything about the work that I put into them or how they were created. You know nothing about them. So why are you getting so worked up over a drawing? Calm your titties and let me draw my OCs without having to constantly justify their existence. Or are you all just doing this because my profile picture's Claude? Thank you, I'm done. Whoa. If you got sent this fucking video, then it's because you're trying to argue with me over my characters and you need to shut up.